Imagine spending 12 solid years in school, right? You do all the homework, take all the tests, but then you graduate and you're completely clueless about how to actually build wealth. Well, this is what we call the missing wealth curriculum. Today, we're going to dive right in and uncover exactly why this happens and, more importantly, how you can fix it.
So why do 12 years of schooling leave so many of us completely financially illiterate? Think about it. You spent countless nights cramming for chemistry exams you literally haven't thought about since. Yet when it comes to your credit score or understanding a 401k, you're just left entirely in the dark. We are meticulously prepared for academia, but kind of entirely unprepared for actual adulthood.
It really boils down to this: academic education versus financial survival. The system, it absolutely excels at teaching standardized subjects in a nice, controlled environment. But financial survival? That requires chaotic, high-stakes, real-world skills. Like, sure, you can calculate the velocity of a falling object, but do you actually know how to acquire cash-flowing assets? Probably not. And the consequences of this gap? They are incredibly heavy. Millions. That's the staggering number of Americans currently dragging credit card debt right into their adult lives. People are entering the workforce without a single clue how fast a 20% interest rate can just entirely erode their livelihood. Seriously, when you don't teach the rules of the game, millions are basically bound to lose.
When you look at adult financial literacy gaps in the US, it highlights exactly where the system is failing us on a daily basis. We're seeing massive, glaring blind spots. We're talking about inflation just eating away at your savings. We're talking about compound interest working against you instead of for you, credit scores, investing. And hey, these aren't some advanced Wall Street tactics. These are the absolute basics of modern survival. So naturally, this leads to a highly provocative question, right? Was the system actually designed to keep you broke? Honestly, it sounds like a great movie plot, like there's a secret council of billionaires just churning out indebted workers. But the reality? The reality really isn't a conspiracy. The simple truth is, wealth just wasn't what the system was built for in the first place. To really understand this, we have to take a quick step back and look at the evolution of schooling. Back in the 1800s, the goal was super basic, just reading and writing. Then the 1900s hit, the Industrial Revolution happens, and that demanded workforce preparation. They needed to create punctual factory workers. But today, we live in this hyper-complex, highly financialized economy. The world changed practically overnight, but the machinery of school, it changed very, very slowly.
You see, the foundational blueprint of schools prioritized a functional society, not a wealthy one. The original goals were actually really straightforward: reading, writing, mathematics, and civics. The whole point was to prepare students for jobs and make them capable workers. That original blueprint just did not include entrepreneurship or aggressive investing. It was doing its job, actually. It just wasn't designed to make you rich.
Beyond the history lesson, though, there's a massive logistical nightmare here. Wealth is not a single subject. To actually build lasting financial independence, you need economics, risk management, business structuring, and, a deep understanding of the tax code. Because wealth requires such a massive spectrum of knowledge, it kind of just gets pushed aside. It's treated as this optional extra, rather than an absolute essential. But right here is where our narrative shifts. Let's dive straight into the psychology of money. Because here's the crazy part. Even when people do know the math, they still totally self-sabotage. Why do we spend money we don't even have on things we definitely don't need just to impress people we don't even like? Why do we spend just to feel successful?
It brings us to a pretty stark realization. The ultimate battle here is mathematics versus human behavior. Let's face it, we are deeply emotional creatures. We aren't spreadsheets. You can know every single compounding interest formula in the world, but if you can't control your impulses, you will never build wealth. Your biggest obstacle isn't a lack of math skills at all. Actually, it's your own mind.
Think about this for a second. We chase instant gratification, we fear uncertainty, we compare ourselves to others. That is literally the human condition summed up in 3 sentences. We want the reward right now, so boom, we finance the expensive car. We panic sell our investments at the absolute worst possible time. We upgrade our entire lifestyle just to keep up with someone else's social media highlight reel. This emotional weight destroys way more portfolios than bad math ever could.
And this brings us to the ultimate missing puzzle piece that traditional schools completely ignore: behavioral finance. It's the study of the psychological and emotional obstacles to building wealth. Basically, it explains why you do dumb things with your money even when you absolutely know better.
Mastering this, it's arguably way more important than mastering stock charts, because if you can't conquer your own mind, there is no way you can conquer the market.
All of this naturally sparks our next big question. If the school system isn't teaching the mechanics of money, and they definitely aren't teaching the psychology of money, how do the wealthy actually learn all this? Because clearly some people are finding an escape route from the madness.
Well, they tap into what we call the unwritten curriculum. Since the classroom won't provide it, they just build their wealth IQ out in the real world. They learn aggressively by reading books. They actively seek out mentors. They start businesses and just adapt to whatever the market throws at them. And maybe most importantly, they learn through massive, painful financial mistakes. The wealthy simply don't sit around waiting for a worksheet. They go out and actively hunt for the information. And through that unwritten curriculum, they master a pretty elite set of skills. We're talking asset allocation, long-term investing, business ownership, cash flow management, opportunity cost. These are the actual gears that drive wealth creation, and they are learned entirely outside of a traditional classroom, usually the hard way, to be honest. These are the exact skills that separate those who work for money from those who have money work for them.
Now, it's not all doom and gloom. The system isn't completely static. Actually, there is a massive shift in momentum happening right now. Think about it. 20 years ago, personal finance was barely a blip on the educational radar. But today, the attention on financial literacy is like night and day. It's finally gaining some serious mainstream traction. People are waking up to the fact that we absolutely cannot keep sending generations into the real world financially blindfolded.
And the numbers back this up. They're actively increasing. A growing wave of U.S. states are finally drawing a line in the sand. They are requiring personal finance education just to graduate high school. We're talking budgeting, understanding credit, saving, investing. Look, there's still a massive amount of work to do, for sure, but the ship is finally starting to turn in the right direction. Ultimately, you have to realize that wealth isn't just about hoarding a bunch of cash. Wealth is really about understanding decisions. It's about measuring risk and recognizing how incredibly small financial choices will compound exponentially over time. Whether it's the math or the psychology behind it, wealth is just a continuous series of decisions that dictate the entire trajectory of your life. So, I'm going to leave you with this one stark question. Now that you know the system was never actually built to teach you wealth, are you just going to keep waiting for a classroom to save you? Or are you starting your unwritten curriculum today? The gap exists, we know that, but the information is out there. It is entirely up to you to take control of your financial destiny. So go out there and start building your wealth IQ right now.